Hi, I'm Olivia, and today our lesson will be over what makes a good story. And to start off with, if I was in a classroom, I would state the objectives to the students. And the objectives are the student will use a graphic organizer to write out their ideas and thoughts about what makes a good story. And then the second part of the lesson, the students will create an idea of what they think they will want to use to write their own story for at the end of the unit. And then after I do that, I'll have all of the kids come back to the carpet, and I will get started with the lesson. So to begin with, I would tell them that we're going to do a read aloud. And the read aloud that I would choose it's called A Loud Winter's Nap by Katie Hudson. And before I would read the story aloud, I would tell them that I want them to listen to the story, and I want them to listen to what they find interesting or intriguing, or something that catches their ear, like something that the writer says, or like a certain part in the book that they just really liked. And then once the read aloud is done, I will ask the students what their favorite parts of the book were, what they didn't like, what they wish the author would have done better, and I'll write their ideas on the board. And then once we have them all up there, I would state that everything that they just said are all parts of what makes a good story. And what makes a good story is when the author is intrigues you, or is talking about a topic that you really like, and it just keeps you on your toes, and it makes you want to keep reading more and coming back to the book because you just enjoy it. And then after I finish stating that, I will tell the students the activity that we're going to do. And the activity that I would tell them is we are going to use a graphic organizer, which is this one right here. And we will be using this to write down for them to use to write down ideas and thoughts of what they think makes a good story. And so I tell the students to go back to their seats, and when they're sitting in their seats, they'll already have their papers at their table, and so they'll be looking at the material while I'm explaining to them about it. And so once all the students are back to those seats, I'll have it pulled up on the board, and we will go over what a graphic organizer is, how we use a graphic organizer, and what we put in each of the circles. And then once I've done that, I'll say, now as a table, what we're going to do is we're going to fill out 5 of these, so we'll have one left out that we won't put anything in. And in each of the circles, as a group, you'll decide what you think are your ideas of what makes a good story. And when you have an idea, you'll just write it in the circle as a group. Everyone will have their own paper and do their own thing. And you'll do that for 5 of them. And then once you're done, the students would go back to the carpet and wait until all of the groups are done. And I'll give them maybe like 10-ish minutes to do it. And once they've all gotten back to the carpet, I'll have each set of tables come up to the board as like one group, and they'll pick their best handwriter, and they will write out their group's favorite idea of what makes a good story on the board, and then they'll go sit back down, and each group will do that until everyone's done. And then once they're all on the board, we'll come back together and we'll talk about everyone's ideas and how they all are good pieces of what makes a good story, and how that by having all of them, it's very important in stories, because if the story isn't interesting or you don't like it, then is it a good story? And we would talk about that. And then once we finished our discussion, I would have them go put their papers in the basket with their names on them, names and dates, and they'll put it in the basket, and they'll come back to the carpet, and I'll wait for them all, and then I'll discuss what our second activity of the lesson is. And so once everyone comes back, I will um, remind or like have them remember that um, um, about a project that we had earlier talked about, which is the creation of their own story. And I'll just remind them that we talked, like in our first lesson, about the 5 elements, about how all of those pieces made up a good story, and that I would rediscuss the project again so we have it in a fresher mind setting for the day. And I will tell the students that today the activity that we're gonna be doing is we're going to be coming up with our own idea for what we want our story to be about. And I'll let them choose whatever topic they want as long as it's appropriate, and that will make a good story for them to write about, or really anything. And so the students, once I re-go over the project, they'll go back to their seats and they'll get out their folders that have all of the papers in them for the unit lessons, and they'll flip to the page that says Step 1, Story Idea, and they will use that page as a brainstorming page for their story ideas. And I'll let them have as much time as they need to figure out what they want to do, what they want to write about. And during this time, they can come ask me questions and I can help them brainstorm. Or if they want to do it independently, that's fine too. And so they can do that until they all finish. And once they're done, they'll just go stick it into the folder basket for me to look at later. And then once everyone's done, we'll do the closure segment, and I'll just re-go over what makes a good story and how lots of pieces need to come together to make a good story. And it's not just one thing that makes a story fun to read, it's a whole lot of things. And I'll also re-talk about our project again, and how like today was only the first step, and that we'll just be working on it in class together, and they won't have to do it at home, so they won't lose any of their papers or anything. And so we'll just go over the project, and then I'll tell them that um, the ideas that they took from the earlier lesson when they were coming up with ideas of what makes a good story, that they can also segment that into their own creation of the stories and help them figure out, now how can I make the story that I'm creating interesting and intriguing and makes the reader want to keep reading more. And so it's just like both lessons can really come together to help them reach the end goal of making a story. And that's it.